Hello, New Life Azores. Welcome back to the channel. I want to start by thanking everyone who has been following the channel, especially the folks from the very beginning, all of our subscribers, and everyone who reached out to me on Facebook requesting me as a friend. I just wanted to give all of you a special shout out. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, requesting me as a friend on Facebook, and all of your private messages as well. So today's video is going to be, I don't want to say cons, but let's just say adjustments, culture shock adjustments here on Terceira Island. So number one, and this isn't any particular order, but let's talk a little bit about the traffic. For the most part, traffic rules and laws are roughly the same as far as comparing it to the United States. I do want to kind of give you guys or prep you guys for the fact that there will be, and there are a lot of cars that will be parking on the side. The roads are so narrow and it's a fairly small island. They're old roads. And there will be, a car parked off onto the side. You're just going to have to go around it, use the same manners and the rules from the United States as far as using your blinker and stuff like that. But often you're kind of stuck in that mindset of what's this person doing? Why are they parked like that? It's because they have to, they have to. There's not a lot of parking spaces and things like that here. So when you're driving, you will see even sometimes as far as a whole entire block or 2 blocks with cars that are actually parked on the street, but off to the side a little bit. And everybody just has to take their turns using the other side of the road or using the middle of the road. Be patient as far as that is concerned. In regards to traffic, I also want to talk a little bit about the honking, because in our mindset, or in my mindset coming from a big city, you would think that when you hear a horn, it's a sign of aggression or a sign of anger, I'm telling you, you did something wrong. But out here, it's actually more like a warning, hey, I'm coming around the corner, or hey, look out for me, or even someone saying hi to you. So it's almost like the opposite. Out here, it's not a sign of aggression. It's more of a warning or, trying to get your attention. 2 on the list is in correlation with number 1, and that is be prepared for the cow poop. There is a lot of cow poop on the streets. Luckily, it's not super stinky cow poop, but there is a lot of cow poop on the streets because this is a farming island, and the farmers are moving their cows from one lot to another lot, whether it's for grazing or for milking. But sometimes they're also doing that 2 to 3 times a day. And of course, if the cow needs to go, the cow is going to go. So be prepared for that. That may help you pick out your rental car, and that may also help you within regards to purchasing a car on the island. I know that the next vehicle that we purchase is either going to be a smaller SUV or maybe even a truck that fits the whole family, of course, because I can't imagine having a lower car and having to continue to drive over the cow poop. Luckily, it's not too stinky, so that's a good thing. It's fresh, earthy kind of smell. So that's one of the perks, I guess, in regards to the poop that's on the streets. And luckily it rains a lot, so it washes the poop away pretty quickly. And there are city workers that are constantly out there cleaning up the streets as well too. So that's a good thing. That kind of brings us into number 3, which is the animals that are on the island. A lot of people ask are there predatory animals that are on the island? I would say the largest predatory animal is probably a cat or a dog, even though they're not really wild. They're more like strays, if you will. You will see stray cats, stray dogs, or even cats and dogs that belong to people that are freely roaming the streets. That's just the culture out here. People don't get super upset when dogs are barking. People don't get super upset when people are letting their dogs kind of just hang out in the road or the street, hanging out with all the other dogs that they've become friends with in the neighborhood and things like that. It's almost like Lady and the Tramp, where all the neighborhood dogs kind of formed their own little pack. Talking about animals on the farm, we do get a lot of rats and rodents, mice and rodents, but that's a good reason why the cats are, roaming the streets freely as well too. They will help clean up that rodent population. I put bugs on a separate line, but might as well just get into that as well too. There are a lot of cockroaches, bugs, insects. It's a semi-tropical island, so be prepared to experience that. Though they're not really in the houses unless you're letting it, get out of control. There are pest control companies out here that will come out and help you with that. We get a lot of mosquitoes in our house, unfortunately. We cannot pinpoint where they're coming from. We've looked everywhere. We looked in all the lots by us looking for like stale, stagnant water, and we cannot figure out where the mosquitoes are coming from. We think they're just coming from the empty lot next door. But yeah, be prepared to experience bugs. Maybe bring your mosquito spray if you have to. That moves us on to number 4, I believe. I want to talk a little bit about island time. This is a phrase that people have heard probably quite often, but it's definitely a thing here. Whether it's, waiting for a plumber, waiting for an electrician, a mason, a car mechanic, be prepared to just have a slower pace of life. Calm down, relax. It's all going to happen eventually. But you have to remember we're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and it is a small island. There's probably a handful of mechanics, a handful of electricians, and a handful of everything else that I have said, and that's it. So if you're not waiting for one, you're waiting for the other. Plus, a lot of those companies and places have to work depending on what the weather is like. And, it is very rainy. That actually might as well start talking about that next. But yeah, my car has been in the mechanic for a long time. You guys may be waiting on other services, but keep in mind, it's harder to access here. It's harder to get those types of services here. So like I said, just be patient, calm down, slower pace of life, just rest and relax and enjoy the weather and enjoy being on the island versus stressing out over, get in the car, let's go. It seems like there's so much hustle bustle living in a big city, especially in the United States, that we kind of forget to breathe every once in a while. So let's go ahead and start talking. I was going to start talking about the rain there. When you're here during the fall and winter, let's say that, fall and winter months, it is rainy. I mean, rainy. Like you're going to get 4 or 5 days of rain per 7 days of the week. It still rains in the summertime as well, but it's just not as much. So when you're traveling, especially if you're just visiting, bring an extra raincoat. And I always tell everybody to bring an extra pair of shoes as well, because chances are you're going to get caught in that rain. Your shoes are going to get soaking wet. And then you're going to need to allow that pair of shoes to dry when you're wearing the dry pair of shoes the next day. That kind of leads us into the next line on my list, the next topic, and that is the mold and the mildew. There's mold, there's mildew. It doesn't only accumulate on the walls, it accumulates on your clothing, your pictures, your shoes. It literally accumulates on everything, your cabinet doors. If you're living out here, get a dehumidifier. And if you're not living out here, maybe stay in a place where you can run your clothing through a wash because you're probably going to need it. With all of that rain and the humidity in the summertime, you're definitely going to need to be able to have access to being able to take care of that mold and mildew. So my next topic, which we already kind of got into a little bit, is the lack of availability. We were talking about services, island time, and things like that. But this also applies to ordering things. I try not to, like my family will say, can I send you a care package or something like that? And I tell them, actually, you can just go on Amazon Spain or go on Shein and order directly from, one of those websites, because you're going to have to pay for import taxes, and sometimes the items also have to go through customs and stuff like that. So it's better to just order directly from one of those websites. Those websites can take up to 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks to receive your items in the mail. So take that into consideration. I haven't seen there's no dollar stores. There are lower cost stores like, I think it's called Super Euro. It is a lower cost store, but You're not going to find a dollar store. You're not going to find anything like that on the island. So, bring what you think is necessary in your luggage or in like a shipping container or a crate if you need to, because things aren't as available here as they are in other places like we're probably used to. Okay, so that brings us to, I believe, number 8 on the list if we're counting, which I don't think we're counting. We're just kind of chatting here. And that is a topic that I think doesn't get brought up enough, and that is the plumbing. If you're visiting, if you're moving here again, keep in mind that we don't flush our tissues. The plumbing is typically older plumbing. The way the plumbing works is it's basically like this big hole underneath your house that has been dug down to the bedrock and hopefully lined with like concrete, and all of your stuff gets flushed into this big hole. And if you're flushing a lot of tissues and things like that, that can get filled up. Most often you don't really have to worry about it because the island kind of processes it and disposes of the waste naturally, if you will. But like I said, if you have layers of tissue in that tank, it can fill up and it can cause some serious plumbing issues. So keep that in mind. Keep a trash can next to the toilet. Sorry guys, I know it's not the most tasteful topic to talk about, but it's something that's important. Yeah, don't flush your tissues, guys, okay? Moving on to one thing that's a minor thing, but it is something that I think, especially if you're coming from where I'm from or other places that might have the same issues. During events like the bullfights and festas and weddings, and sometimes even the farmers will let off these fireworks that sound like bombs or gunshots. So know that if you hear loud, bangs and popping, it is not what you probably think it could be. I remember our first bullfight when we heard it. Our instinct was to like duck and run, but it was really just this firework that sounds like a bomb. So you will hear that on the island, especially during holidays and stuff like that. I call them bombs, but they're fireworks. They're just not the pretty fancy, sparkly fireworks. It's more of like a psh, kind of sound, if you will. And it's kind of scary at first, but now we're used to them, of course. But yeah, it's interesting because you can almost spot the tourist in the crowd of the bullfights because they're the ones that are like, whoa, what was that? It's actually not funny. It's kind of sad that, we are forced to have those type of reactions. But yeah, the fireworks, be prepared for loud sounds is what we call it for Mako, loud sound. The last topic, and I've talked about this multiple times with you guys, is the language barrier. Try your hardest to learn some Portuguese before you come out here. European Portuguese if you can. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, hey, Brazilian Portuguese will do too if you can't find European Portuguese. This is one of the biggest regrets that I have, is not learning enough Portuguese. What I do know of Portuguese has been taught to me from like my in-laws or other locals, or me just, going on YouTube and trying to find it myself. I really, really need to take a Portuguese class. I should probably be taking like 2 Portuguese classes a day because of my my lack of the language. But it gets really hard when you're trying to like go to the doctor or travel on the bus or go into town shopping, things like that. Luckily, there is usually a person within arm's reach who does speak English. There are people around that will help, but it can be very challenging. Luckily, like, I have no problem approaching people and asking for help, but if you have any social anxieties and things like that, it can definitely be debilitating to not know the language when coming out here. But luckily we have all these, translating apps and stuff like that. But do your best to at least learn the terms of politeness prior to coming here. You can, do a quick Google search or you go on YouTube, and, that helps a lot. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get into, culture shock. People are like, do a list of pros and cons, and I prefer not to call them cons. I prefer to call them adjustments, because really I haven't had any cons yet. Just little minor bumps in the road and stuff like that. But yeah, I do wish you guys the best of luck when traveling out here from wherever you may come from. Again, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook under Annie Nova, ANNIENOVA. Don't forget to send me a message and let me know that you're coming from the channel so that you guys, whoever's requesting, doesn't end up in the spam. But like I said in my last video, if you guys have any questions about adjusting to the island, finding a rental car, looking for apartments, looking for homes to buy, I am here to help with the best of my ability. I'm not a professional when it comes to that, but I'm here, and it might be easier for me to access something versus you being able to access it wherever you're from. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm here again to the best of my ability. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye for now.